Supervisor B, BoS play first, play 18, if you all stand, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Folks, good to have you here as always. Standard announcement that please silence all of your cell phones and any other devices that you may have. Also, that audience members need to know that they may be audio or videos recorded by third parties. It's not by law. Next item on the agenda, number 4, is the Sunoco Mariner update. Our esteemed solicitor, Mr. Bruman, to give us an update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I'm happy to report that on July 19th, right after your last board meeting, as predicted, Elizabeth Barnes, the administrative law judge, issued a 53-page opinion on West Goshen's complaint to enforce the 2015 settlement agreement against Sunoco. I would say overall it was a complete success. We prevailed on 3 of the 4 counts. Specifically, Sunoco was enjoined from constructing or locating any valve or other appurtenance associated with ME2 or ME2X on a JANIC 2 track or anyone else in West Goshen Township, except for the area agreed to in the settlement agreement, the SPLP use area, unless Sunoco first obtains written consent from the township. Second, it directed Sunoco to provide all engineering documents to our expert Richard Kubowitz of AccuFacts Inc. Related to Mariner 2 and Mariner 2X, between the valve at the Eagle pump station and the valve at Middletown Road, as well as any other plans to eliminate any valves in West Goshen Township, and automated valve 2.5 miles from West Goshen. So as you remember, after we filed the complaint, eliminated a valve at the JANIC 2 site. They created a new valve upstream. Our expert had not had an opportunity to do a safety review. They've now ordered, or Judge Barnes now ordered Sunoco to permit that safety. Third, in connection with these automated valves, since Sunoco can, without PUC or FERC approval, change them at any time, the PUC directed Sunoco to file an affidavit with the PUC within 30 days of this decision becoming final, that they in fact have installed the remote control valves and automatic shut-off valves at milepost 335, that's the Eagle pump station, milepost 341, which is East Lincoln Highway, and milepost 350.5, which is Middletown. The PUC will take, the one count that we did not prevail on was forcing them to put a 4th valve in at the SPLP use area. And Judge Barnes decided that there were engineering constraints that would make it unsafe to put a valve in that location, given the height of that land compared to where 202 is. Too steep curvature to go under 202, and it wouldn't get the required 20-foot depth, risking heaving of the road during HDD process. So 3 out of 4 I thought was a renowned success. The PUC now will take this decision, it's a recommended decision, up at its September meeting, and both sides have agreed to not appeal if this decision becomes final. If the PUC changes this decision in any regard, both sides have reserved the right to file exceptions or appeal. So we'll wait to see what the PUC does. My suspicion is that they will approve the decision or just let it become final by operation of law. The other report is that our expert has already begun a safety review of the 12-inch repurposed line, which is what I reported in July. That too is a right we have under the settlement agreement. So Richard Kubowitz of AccuFacts has submitted a 3-page list of questions and document requests to Sunoco. They began supplying that Friday and yesterday. So I suspect in about 3 weeks they'll have a draft of that safety review for your consideration. He then will go on to do the safety review at every 2 days. That's my report for this evening.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
BoS Ribery, Counselor, thank you for your presentation. Question that I have, I'm going to frame it very broadly. With respect to safety issues, subterranean drilling, liquid added, water, bentonite, and other additives, do you have any constructive environment during the course of discovery or interrogatories? Have they disclosed they use any kind of an additive that they call that proprietary or trade secret, to your knowledge, or the township has that knowledge?
Not that I've personally seen. That wasn't an issue in the contract case. This was to enforce a settlement agreement. That has been under scrutiny by the DEP associated with what's happened in West Whiteland, and frankly at about 130 locations throughout the Commonwealth. They've been fined north of $1.1 million for those what are called frac outs. And DEP and PUC are in possession of what is contained in that hydraulic fluid, which is part of what goes into the HDD drill. I do not have that information.
Does the township in any shape and form questioning that, since the health, safety, and welfare of that liquid they're pumping into the ground? I'm only interested in the additive, proprietary material, Halliburton rule basically. They're not allowed to discuss that or disclose that. Is there any place other than your information we can get a hold of that?
Yeah, I mean, we can at least check with the DEP and with the citizens that I've been pursuing that before the Environmental Hearing Board. You know, it's not something I've been tasked to do, but it's something the board can consider.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the audience? Get this in reverse order. Any questions from supervisors? Mr. Bruin, on behalf of the board, I want to thank you for your efforts. It's been a long journey. It's been a tough fight. We came out successful. I think one of the biggest issues about this was our very own sovereignty. We have an agreement, they just turned around and decided, no, we're not going to follow it. We put it into their hands, and I thank you very much on behalf of the board.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, folks, we're moving on to number 5 on the agenda. Discussion and possible approval of decision and order for the conditional use hearing for 965 South Matlack Street for Commerce Pursuit Capital LP that occurred at the July 17, 2018 Board of Supervisors meeting.
Our office has prepared a decision on the application of Commerce Pursuit Capital LP for a conditional use for a lifestyle apartment at property located at 956 South Matlack Street, Westchester, PA. That decision was drafted based on the hearing that was held on July 17th. The decision contains findings of fact, conclusions of law, a legal discussion, and a proposed order. And that decision is before the board this evening for approval, and that would be by motion of the Board of Supervisors.
Do I have a motion for approval? I'll make the motion. Mr. Meekum, Mr. Purnell, second. Do we have any public comment? Any questions? I'm going to go with Ms. Swart first, and then I'll go with you, Mr. Amari. Ms. Swart?
Hi, good evening. Margie Swart. Just wanted to let you know that I stopped into the Point complex today, which is on the opposite side of 202 at Matlack Street. And I had a nice conversation with their senior manager, and she said she'd try to be here this evening, although she did have a family member in the hospital, so wasn't quite sure. She did let me know that one of the township employees did stop by and inform them of the impending, no, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself, that's the next rental agreement, or the inspection for the rentals, so forgive me there. I asked about the traffic at that intersection, and she emphatically said it's a problem. It's a big problem. She said that she was in her office in November when that horrific accident happened at that intersection, and she said the building shook. A couple other comments. She thought it was bizarre that the apartment unit would not have any outdoor living space. She said, after all, if it's going to be a luxury apartment building, one would guess or one would assume that you would offer outdoor balconies. I was surprised to learn that that apartment building is also 230 units. And I thought that I recalled during some of the hearings that it was suggested that the point was actually, twice as big as this apartment was going to be. So we're going from, 210 to 230. So what you see at the point at 202 in Matlack is probably very similar to get what you're getting or proposing to build the developer at the Agway site. I also went to the Chester County Planning Commission, and I must tell you, that's a remarkable public service department. I've relied on them for research in the past, and they're always helpful, they're always willing to help. And I was really troubled by the fact that we employ, or the township employs, these really professional planners. And this zoning ordinance, which was passed a couple months ago, went to the Chester County Planning Commission for review. And unfortunately, upon return of this review letter from the Planning Commission, the Chester County Planning Commission, not one amendment was made to the proposed ordinance. And there's some really important comments that they make. This is inconsistent with the principles of the Landscapes 2, specifically the smart transportation principles. It's inconsistent with the housing supply component of Landscapes 2. It's inconsistent with the township's 2004 comprehensive plan. And the ordinance that's up for approval tonight states that certain properties in the township currently zoned I-2 Light Industrial District are vacant and provide an opportunity for redevelopment as a residential use. However, all 9 parcels within the proposed are now rezoned I-2R district. They're all in active use. So that just troubles me that we used something that's not really factual as a reason for amending the zoning ordinance. One of their comments also was mixing residential development with active industrial uses, like a trucking terminal and an auto collision center, can create conflicts and negative impacts on residences. Let's see, I won't go on. These are just great words, and I'm just troubled by, we couldn't even incorporate or address any one of these comments from the Chester County Planning Commission. They also recommended, and I know this, I know the board cares about this, the township consider requiring a certain percentage of proposed apartment units as affordable housing units. I don't believe this plan or this conditional use addresses that. And then also, specifically for tonight, they recommend that the proposed ordinance standards require building elevations to be submitted as part of the conditional use application. So I'm not sure what that is. I know there's a cap of 60 feet, But even in the industrial zoning district, the cap is 40 feet, so we're allowing this conditional use to be some 20 feet higher than what's in the I2R zoning district. Let's see, and the township should provide the rationale for prohibiting balconies as part of the proposed definition. Generally, residential uses should have outdoor living areas, such as balconies. Additionally, the township should consider whether the proposed definition is overly descriptive. So I just ask that maybe you put this off one more month, and maybe all 5 of you did read word for word what the Chester County Planning Commission had to say about this. If you did, then vote tonight. But if you didn't read this and know what they advised, and their advisory board, I understand that, but I just ask that you consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Any other comments?
BoS Ribery. Mr. Chairman, at the previous meeting, the issue of traffic impact study raised my eyebrow. No one in this board even questioned it. Not your township manager, not your engineer, not your zoning officer. Traffic impact study is a benchmark. When do you do that? When there's an average traffic, not when their schools are closed, everybody's on vacation. Point number one. Point number two, height of the building. If you drive by Hershey Mill, they did the same thing. They built it on the ground, they pushed the dirt against it, and they measured the building height from imaginary line. I'm a little bit surprised that this is the kind of scrutiny this applicant gets by this very distinguished board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amori. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Mr. White, Dr. White.
Doug White, Ms. Swartz and Mr. Abbas made some good points. I believe it's 209 units that's being proposed. Is that true?
205.
I believe it's 205 units.
205. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? Have any questions from the board? Okay. I believe we did have a motion, and we did have a second. I'm ready to take that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to number 6 on the agenda. It's actually been postponed, tabled to our next meeting. Our next meeting is not September 18th, in contemplation of the holiday. It's going to be on September 18th. I believe our next township meeting, Mr. Long, is going to be the 20th?
Yes, the next meeting has been moved for us to Dr. White to Thursday, September 20th, 7 o'clock.
Look forward to that issue. So we're going to jump to number 7. We're glad to introduce the Westchester Public Library and their annual presentation to the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Mary Brooks. I'm the president this year of the Westchester Public Library Board, and I'm joined tonight by another board member, Amelia Rayburn, who is a West Goshen Township resident, and also Victoria Dow, who is our director. And I'm just going to start off by thanking you for your past and ongoing support of the library. It's very important to our financial sustainability that all the townships in our service area support the library, and in fact, all 6 townships do. So that's very helpful to us, and obviously the board takes very seriously its fiscal oversight of these funds so that the library can best serve the public. So again, my thanks, and now Victoria will just update you very briefly on activities this past year at the library.
Thank you, Mary. Victoria Dow, I'm the director of the Westchester Public Library, and my thanks as well for your ongoing support over the years. You have a copy of our annual report. The members of the public, I will tell you that we do have that available on our website, which is wcpubliclibrary.org. And in there, you'll see, what we did in 2017. And we continue our programs, especially for children. I did take a look at some circulation statistics, and 67% of the materials that West Goshen residents check out from our library is children's material. So families are making use of that collection, and I always like to say that that is kind of our bread and butter. We really do value the service we give to the families in our area, the materials that we provide, the summer reading program that we have run every year since, I don't know, the turn of the last century. So we continue to do that. We have a very active teen program every Tuesday afternoon, 3:30 till 5. Teens are welcome to drop in. Our teen program coordinator, Alyssa Turner, has a lot of great activities, movies. They make crafts. They've worked with the ladies of the New Century Club to do some charity work. I think their favorite one was making pull toys for the Brandywine SPCA residents and other activities like that. We also have a teen advisory board. So they get some experience in running a board. They have a president, they have a secretary, and helping to plan activities and programs for their peers. We see this as good basic training for getting out into the world and being active participants in local government, organizations, that kind of thing. And we've also really upped our programs for adults. It's a variety of things. We've had learn how to paint, which several people said they really enjoyed. One lady come back. We've had jewelry making. We have an active book discussion group that has been going for over 20 years now on the third Wednesday of the month. And we also have a really active quilting group. They have actually expanded now to 2 Wednesdays in the month, the 2nd and the 4th. And all of our programs are listed on the events calendar, which is also available off of our website. So thank you very much. Anybody have any questions?
Thanks for coming in.
Sure. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? I want to thank you all for your great time. It's a wonderful place. I worked here at Goshen. Okay, folks, next item on the agenda is item number 8. A discussion and possible approval of the sewer use agreement between West Goshen Township, West Whiteland Township, and West Goshen Township Sewer Authority.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Sundquist, and I'm here on behalf of the Sewer Authority, seeking approval this evening of the sewer agreement between West Goshen Sewer Authority, your township, and West Whiteland Township. This agreement is something that typically has been in place for a long time, but typically gets redone anytime there's a large capital improvement project that occurs. And at this point, the authority has approved the agreement, as has West Whiteland Township. And so I'm just here this evening asking that you approve it or to answer any questions you may have about the agreement.
Do we have any questions from the board about the agreement?
No.
No questions. We're going to turn it over to the audience then, with your permission. Any questions from the audience about the agreement? Seems like we have no questions. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
She knew sort of quit what she did.
So I guess we would entertain a motion to approve. Or do I see a hand? I thought I saw a hand. I saw a quick movement over there. Mr. Barr. Keep my eye out.
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
Okay. Second. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Now, folks, we're moving along to the reports of the month for July of 2018. First report, will you please report? It's presented by Lieutenant Michael Carroll. Thank you.
For the month of July 2018, the police department responded to 1,849 calls for service. Of those calls, 79 were alarms, and of those 79 alarms, 10 were found to be valid alarms, and 17 automobile accidents. In total, the officers drove 20,221 miles. And for training, we had Officer Grandizio attended training further to his drug recognition expert status. Officers Cotter and Detective Taylor attended negotiator training, and Detective Taylor also attended facial recognition training. And just as a reminder, the Chief asked me to let everybody know that we will be accepting applications to our 2018 Citizens Police Academy up until the 27th of August. So anyone who's interested, please get the applications in. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the board?
I have a question.
You have a question, Mr. Romari?
Thank you, officer. Quick question. I did a FOIA request, Freedom of Information request, to the chief, and I requested that your internal operational manual, that's what I know. What do you call your internal operational manual? Policy manual?
That's correct, policy manual.
So it's all policy, one word, policy manual, correct? Two words, I mean policy manual, that's it. There's no other word other than that.
Will it be the West Goshen Township Police Department's policy manual?
I want to be very correct because I'm going to refile that. I don't want to get rejected back, okay?
If people, when this is over, if you'll walk downstairs with me, I will make sure that's the verbiage, but that's my understanding.
I would decline that. I fear for my safety.
Okay.
You know,
That's my best recollection.
I apologize for
No
that.
problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Lieutenant. Next report will be the Fire Marshal's report, including Goshen Fire Company, Good Fellowship Ambulance Company, presented by the zoning officer, Mr. Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will also have Mr. Beswick's report, if that's okay. I'll give them both at the same time.
Appreciate it, thank you very much.
Ms. Testa had 26 inspections, 7 fire calls. She attended 3 meetings, and she completed 2 hours worth of training. Westchester Fire Department had 26 calls. Good Fellowship Ambulance had 114 calls. With regards to Mr. Beswick's report, there were 13 building permits. There were a total of 83 permits issued. Total permit fees, $212,023.07. Construction cost, $7,470,120.76.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quinn. Any comment on that? Okay. So next we have building officials report presented by zoning officer Bill Webb. And you did.
I did.
Thank you. You have a consolidated report. Appreciate it very much. So it looks like we're going on to number 10, agenda item number 10, Board of Supervisors announcements. I will start to my left. Ms. Lasoda, announcements.
Yes, I have a couple. So I did some research on my own, and I'm just going to hand out a memo that I prepared with some attachments for dissemination by the Board of Supervisors and possibly a discussion next month. The memo is in regards to the Neighborhood Blight Reclamation and Revitalization Act, Act 90, which allows the township to deny building permits for anyone who is in arrears on their sewer and trash fees. So some of the facts that I obtained from one of the staff that does the sewer and trash fee collection is that we have lien fees for delinquent accounts in excess of $164,000. These individuals owe money to the township. Some of them are on payment plans and are making payments, but they are allowed to make improvements to their real estate, their residential, their offices, even though they owe money to the township. If they're able to make improvements to their blocks, their homes, their businesses, then they have enough money to pay the fees that they owe, sewer fees, et cetera, trash fees. Collection starts usually when the individual accounts reach $1,800. I also want the board to maybe take a look at that amount and maybe consider that we lower that amount for the township to start pursuing collections sooner rather than waiting till the threshold amount of 1,800. I also asked the staff individual if she had ever come across someone who wasn't able to pay or was in some sort of economic distress. There was one individual that really did have some sort of economic hardship, but the township is able to work with the individuals to set up a payment plan, and the individual was put on a payment plan to pay it off, and that was once in the last 5 years. So the individuals that aren't paying their sewer trash fees are individuals that should be paying. And so I'm going to be handing out a memo regarding this neighborhood light reclamation and revitalization act. It talks about the legal actions, the denial of permits, what does it do, how does the township pay for it, does it cost the township anything extra, where does it apply, how does it work, what are the policies and practices that the township should follow, are there any exceptions? There are exceptions. A couple of the exceptions is if the real estate is inherited and it's been inherited with outstanding fees associated with that, that's an exception. The other exception is if the permit that is trying to be processed is for a zoning code violation, that's an exception because you want to make sure that the property is in compliance to the zoning codes. And then the other exception is we can't reclaim outstanding fees or collect on liens if the individual is in bankruptcy, faced with bankruptcy. So I've attached a memo that I put together. I've attached some facts that I've gathered from one of the staff members. I've also attached the Act 90 in its entirety. And then I also attached a copy of an ordinance from a second-class township so that you can also see an example of what it would entail. So this is my packet to you for discussion. Next month, if we could possibly add that to the agenda so that everyone has all the information together and we can all talk and have a dialogue up here. If you could pass that down.
Thank you, Mrs. Soga.
Sure.
Mr. Long, you had something to say about the aspects of the limit, the $1,800?
Yeah, that's actually not the upper limit, but that is the point where we go to writ, where we actually file court documents to essentially take the property. As soon as the property has missed a quarter, it's all strictly in our township code as to a court process. So once they go to a second quarter of being in arrears, they get a delinquency letter. Once they get to 3 quarters behind, that's when we file a lien against the property. So it's very,
So that is outlined.
Yeah, it's a very strict process that we follow in the code. And we work with the solicitor obviously on a daily basis to do that. So it's, but this is another step that can force payments.
Yeah.
By all means, absolutely.
Well, I think it's a great idea to explore, so I'm fine with putting it on the agenda, discuss with the board.
Just for discussion, and then if we have a majority, that's fine too. The other thing that I want to bring to the board's attention, I'm a liaison with the planning commission, so I attend all planning commission meetings. A while back, the board had requested that a developer for the Little Shiloh development put in sidewalks. They came before the planning commission last Tuesday and asked the planning commission to waive that requirement. There was not a quorum, there was not enough individuals to vote on that. So Rick Craig had sent me an email saying if the board was going to hold firm on that he was going to require them to include that in their plans. So there's no recommendation from the planning commission. I'm just relaying the information. I believe it's in the development of 9 houses? 13. Yeah. It's a cul-de-sac. There would be sidewalks within the cul-de-sac and then sidewalks along just bringing it to your attention. There would be a sidewalk along Little Shiloh.
That is what's is strictly required by the code. However, and I had a lengthy discussion with Greg about this, it would entail taking down every tree on both 5 Points and Little Shiloh. So you have it's a difficult issue because we're essentially degrading the environment to put sidewalks in, but we want to have walkable communities. Another interrelated issue is all of the land around this development is already developed. They're all residential. There are no sidewalks.
Exactly.
So there's no future possibility for connection unless the board would force those developments to put in sidewalks at some point.
Yes, because that would be property by property.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
So it's a tricky issue. to
So
say the
just to
least.
be clear about this,
Yep.
the sidewalks they would be held responsible for putting in would basically be that corner intersection that would end at the end of their property line, the total property line.
Yes.
Okay, so I live right there.
You do, yeah.
And my point of view is that it would be a waste of money to make a sidewalk. It's not a walkable community per se. There's a lot of traffic that comes around that corner because it goes on to Weston. It's already very overbuilt from the multiple new developments that are there. People use it as a bypass to 202 to get down to Glen Mills. And I can't see safety. I mean, I would be concerned with safety, just putting a sidewalk along there and basically giving people a sense of confidence that they could be safe on those sidewalks. Plus, it ends before you end up going to multiple driveways of families that have already been on that road that don't have a sidewalk, and there's usually an embankment. The land kind of elevates to get to those homes. So I don't see a reason why I would recommend that we ask the enforcement to have sidewalks.
okay, so that's sidewalk on Little Shiloh. What about, does it require sidewalks internally within the development? So
By code, it requires sidewalks at the development, which is waivable by the board.
So that would be two separate issues, outside of the development and within the development. One of the members of the planning commission said that sidewalks within a community helps bring neighbors together and gets children learn to ride their bikes or tricycles on sidewalks. And it encourages people to get out and meet their neighbors. This particular individual was concerned with bringing people together, encouraging people to come out and get to know their neighbors. Yes, you.
Living in a community that has sidewalks in most of the
Can I ask you to speak to your microphone? Thank you.
living in a community that has sidewalks in most of its area. I would 100% concur with that. Also, the ladies who have young children use that on a regular basis. The sidewalks also have helped a great deal as sort of collection points for the school bus. So yes, within the community, absolutely that would be one.
I'm not sure if school district policy allows school buses on cul-de-sacs.
What about the sidewalk would take them to the edge?
Oh, yes,
There'd be
absolutely.
a
No, no, no.
safe place for
Yeah,
them to
but-
stand.
Yeah, the school buses
right?
just won't come down, yeah. That's
Right.
all. As long as they go to the end of it.
So having lived in Mr. Purnell's community, I can attest that I use the sidewalk almost every morning. Walk right out of your house. So yes.
I can say I live in a cul-de-sac and don't have a sidewalk, and I wish I did, because even though cul-de-sacs traffic is limited, nonetheless, we still get a lot of people turning into our cul-de-sac. They can use a shortcut, perhaps to Teva, some of the other local businesses there, and they come speeding through. And we do have some young kids that are there playing on the street. That's never a guarantee just because you have a sidewalk. Kids won't play in the street. I understand that, but ideally it would have been nice. So I can see the point.
So how do we square the fact that Applegate and West Town Chase do not have sidewalks, and they are massive community developments where there are more people who would benefit from the sidewalk. You're telling me that historically we waived their requirement?
Absolutely. Those are 15, 20-year-old developments, absolutely.
So it concerns me from a fairness standpoint and what we're doing from going forward. If we're going to make sure if there's new developments and we make this decision today, don't we need to be consistent with our decision-making process? And I'm not saying one way or the other that I would agree to not or to expect or require, but I just find it concerning that the two neighboring developments, if the developer were to come to us and say, we're 13 units, the others are 50
60,
plus.
70, sure.
Exactly. Why were they not required?
That's a good point. That one point for me, but just because I said I live in one of those. I don't have one. And I can see that would be a benefit to have.
No, I wonder how that would
Yeah, but you
go.
don't use your microphone.
None of you have your microphones on.
They're all on.
No,
I
they're
think
not.
Can you hear us now?
Well, we know, but it's helpful for the,
Oh, I know, it's just that it doesn't seem like we're talking close enough.
because it
That's what
doesn't
we do.
pick up on the meeting
Sure.
video. So if you would talk all of you into your microphone, that would be very helpful.
Perhaps I should ask Ms. Lusoto, what is the deadline for this decision?
We weren't given a deadline that I know of, correct?
No, I mean, the MPC allows a 90-day clock. This project is a little late because they had to get some Army Corps of Engineers approval, DEP approval, so it's taken a little bit longer. But that's why, and we did not have a form of the planning commission.
Correct.
So it's a vacation, so.
This would require a vote.
The Board of Supervisors should, in this case, definitely, since we did not have a planning commission recommendation especially. Yeah.
I suggest we table it, give us an opportunity to drive out there, take a look at it, look at the neighborhood. I see a comment.
It's at the intersection, it's in the southernmost corner of Blackmore. It butts on 5 Points Road, coming down from Westchester Pike, cross over West Town Road, and then one stop sign after that is Little Shiloh. And Little Shiloh on the northern side of it is West Goshen, on the southern side it becomes West Town Road.
Correct.
So is it the property on Shiloh Road that's been built?
No, when you go down West Town Road, it's where, Nussik's Farm used to be on the right-hand side where Applegate is now. It is right after you pass the entrance to West Town Chase. It's that old white house that was right on the corner, just as you come to make, that's where they're gonna develop with their pond. That's why they need a DEP.
Right, the
And-
pond is, I think, already gone away, so.
Yes, it's just
Drained it.
going straight.
And they have made significant environmental repairs to the property at will with this plan. So it's a very complex issue, not just sidewalks.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's anything to table. The developer has not come before you requesting final plan approval, it's not on the agenda. The consultants haven't reviewed it, the planning commission hasn't finished its review. As long as the time deadlines are being met and you're getting extensions when you need them from the developer, I don't think there's any action to be taken tonight.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
And thanks,
Dr.
Mary,
Wood?
for bringing it to our
Yes,
attention.
yes.
Thanks for the heads up.
And the other, one more thing I want to add is that having sidewalks within the community could actually attract people to that community. This could be a positive. This could be a
I
positive.
think that's something that I think might have been mentioned in our comprehensive.
Yeah.
Yes, people want sidewalks.
That's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up to our attention.
Yeah, say my development has around 200 homes, no sidewalks. We never had to repair them. We did not have like, especially a lot in Delaware County, get a little crack, they went, especially in southern time. My feeling would be, doing that, for only 13 homes, I would go with sidewalks.
Thank you.
It's something to consider. Dr. White.
A couple of questions. If we did make them put the sidewalks on the exterior of the development, would it add significantly to the cost of the house? Number two, the trees that have to come down, are there, let's say they took those trees down and put the sidewalks, are there more trees behind there. Is it,
They don't have to come out to do the sidewalks correctly.
so then, okay. I thought
Sidewalk construction, $250 a foot, so.
it could. All right. Well, Mary had a good point about making a big circular walkway.
The interior seems to be
Yeah.
a more reasonable
Yeah.
approach.
Well-
It's because quite frankly, the properties, the way they would be balanced in that corner, it would be their backyards that would have the sidewalks, and those sidewalks would basically end up nowhere productive. You'd have to cross the street, you'd have to walk through someone else's property if you wanted to continue to walk around the community.
Right.
But the interior seems like a reasonable
Right.
place to go to be.
Plus, Mr. Meekum had a good point. I mean, we all survive if we don't have sidewalks. I mean, you're great, but plenty of neighborhoods don't have them, and
Does it mean that we will have enforcement of making sure that those township residents with sidewalks in front of them maintain them?
Absolutely. We do.
That's not
Actually, Mr. Craig is working with the resident right now.
To the
In
property
North Hill,
lines.
actually.
Okay.
A very significant.
Every year when it snows, I get those phone calls.
Well, moving on down the line with our township supervisor announcements.
I'm just going to reiterate the event of the century. And that is a joint meeting between the West Goshen Township Supervisors and the Sewer Authority. You're having a meeting to give the residents an opportunity to learn about all of the accomplishments that have been made in the last year and a half, 2 years maybe at this point, to learn about the infrastructure that's been built and things that have been rehabilitated. We're also going to learn about what is anticipated in terms of development and activities towards the end of this year, as well as what's projected for 2019. And then there'll be an opportunity for us to learn about what the sewer rates are going to be for starting in 2019. So we encourage you, to the extent that you have an interest in knowing about your increase and knowing what has been accomplished with the $17 million bond that the township invested in having this work done. We would like to welcome you. We're going to have it in this room. We're going to make it big enough so that the Sewer Authority and the township board members can have a dialogue across from each other, but then the seats will be arranged so that you can be intimately close with us, and we can have sort of a town hall meeting type of thing. But we're calling it a workshop. It is a public meeting. It has been advertised. And it is an opportunity for you to ask whatever questions you have about the increases, how the money's been spent, what's going to happen in the future in terms of how we're going to maintain it and move forward with it. Any questions about that? Yes, Margie? Oh, I'm sorry. The date is August 29th. It's at 6 p.m. and it'll be held here. Hi, good evening. The Sewer Authority failed to include the attached document that I'm going to hand to you tonight to their meeting minutes in April of 2017 as requested. Subsequently, I submit the same comments to this board for your consideration when deliberating a sewer rate increase at the joint meeting with the Sewer Authority Board on October 29th. So if Mr. Lalonde would kindly attach this document to tonight's meeting minutes, I'd appreciate it. Did you say October 29th? August 29th, excuse me. Okay.
I'm sorry. These were from April 2017, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. This is up to the board to attach.
Okay. One moment. This document that you've handed us, Ms. Warren, it is something you are saying that the Sewer Authority failed to include in its minutes,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
It is my recommendation to this board that this document not be made a part of the Board of Supervisors minutes because it's completely out of context with anything that the Board of Supervisors has said or done this evening. The context of this is that it was before the Sewer Authority in April of 2017. The Sewer Authority, in its discretion, decided that this should not be part of its minutes, and I don't believe that it has any bearing on the Board of Supervisors' actions of this evening's meeting, and therefore should not be attached to the minutes of this meeting.
So, Ms. Ward, I would have to concur with Mr. Stander, but I want to stress a couple of things first, just so you know. The August 29th meeting, as Robin said, is a very big meeting. It's very important for many reasons. It's not only where we go from here, but how we got here. And I welcome your comments at that meeting. I also want you to know that I think you mentioned that we were going to be deliberating on the rates. We're going to be informed about the proposed rates. I myself have different proposals that I will talk about. So everybody's going to have a chance to speak, but we are not going to vote on any rate increase at that meeting. I just want to be fair to everyone. The Sewer Authority is going to have an opportunity to present what they've done. You're going to have an opportunity, I'm going to have an opportunity to ask those important questions as to how we got here. This, I don't think, should be added on to it, but I will keep it for my own edification, and I look forward to you reiterating it at that meeting at the proper time.
Well, and the reason I handed it to you tonight is I hope that next week is a very productive meeting. I want it to be. But as the attachment says, I attended probably 13 Sewer Authority meetings. Never once at every meeting I made a comment or I had questions. Not one time in Sewer Authority meeting minutes was that ever reflected. So.
Understood, Ms. Ward, but that's between you and the Sewer Authority. They have their own secretary, they have their own minutes, they have their own board that votes to approve minutes, and that's not this board.
So I saw these nice young Boy Scouts in the audience, and I just think this is a poor reflection of government for them to see a citizen that wants to actively participate in the democratic process, and I'm being told you can come here every month as often as you wish, and we're not going to reflect it. We're going to continue to let Mr. Lalonde, who is the keeper of all things West Goshen Township, have say over everything that is included in the minutes.
I can only tell you that you will be given each and every opportunity to say your piece at this meeting, and I will go out of my way to ensure that whatever you say at this meeting will be reflected properly in the minutes. I can only guarantee you that as a chairman of this board, I have no control over the Sewer Authority. They are a separate and autonomous authority. I have, as you know, not seen eye to eye with everything that is happening, yet I have to respect that. I cannot take any action on your complaint. Only thing I can do is say that there will be a joint meeting and you will be treated with respect. It's my promise to you that you will have your say. And I think we should move on, okay?
Okay. West Goshen Sunshine is a Facebook page. I'm always reluctant. I've only posted a few things, but I will post my comments. I really hesitate, and I don't want to start posting things on social media. That's never been my way. I've never done that, and I'm gonna have to do that.
I think it's very important, if you could, to post that there's going to be this meeting, so that everybody can come to the table. I think one of my biggest fears is that not enough people are going to come, and a lot of people are going to be shocked, and they're not going to know what's going to happen, and they're going to come back to us later on. So I agree with you as far as getting the word out. I ask you to do it constructively, and this is your First Amendment right to put whatever you want on that day. But if you could do a favor for me to help spread the word, that would be great too.
Who adds the Sewer Authority minutes to the township website?
That I don't know.
They're submitted to me by Sean Walsh, and I don't touch them. I convert them to a PDF.
We have no control over their
All
minutes.
right, the April 2000 Sewer Authority minutes are not online. Mr. Lalonde, would you see to it that those minutes be added
I publish
to the website?
what is provided to me. I don't editorialize, I
We'll-
don't touch
we'll-
it.
Margie, are you talking about the minutes or not on the sewer authorities page when you can drop down to pull the minutes from them?
Correct.
And I would recommend that you write to the sewer authority and ask them to have that document either placed back on or at least sent to you.
The chairman of the Sewer Authority is in our audience this evening. Mr. Murphy, would you be so kind to ensure that that happens, please?
It's not appropriate for this board. Ms. Swart, please talk to Mr. Murphy privately.
Yeah, if we can move along, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
your point. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Township supervisor announcements are ongoing. Just to put a punctuation mark on that. This meeting is very important, folks. You deserve to know what happened, why we're here, where we're going to go forward. We need to know what our plan's going to be, and everybody should be informed as they can be about this. So Ms. Stundebeck has gone through great lengths. She will be chairing this meeting to get together two boards to discuss this matter. That's how important it is. So I would ask all of you to spread the word and to please be there so as to be best informed and make your own decisions about what should be done going forward. With that, I'm going to turn to my colleague, Mr. Meekum. I know, Mr. Purnell, you have something to add about the Historical Society ordinance, is that not correct?
I do. A couple of months ago, we discussed the necessity for the necessity really for historical preservation of a lot of our buildings and sites within the township. The Historical Commission was formed last year, and it has undertaken a classification of many of the buildings within the township. It isn't complete, but it's in relatively good shape. I turned over to our solicitor the information on several ordinances from surrounding townships and some notes on what our historical commission would like. I would like to put it in the form of a motion that we then direct our solicitor to put a draft together of the historical preservation ordinance. And I'll make that motion.
Do you have a second for that?
I'll second.
Ms. Lasota, second. Any public comment on that motion? Mr. Ambari.
Boss Mary. Mr. Chairman, it's noteworthy to look at East Goshen Township zoning ordinance and their adoption of Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission. They did quite a bit of work. I was involved in that. Beautiful job they have done. I highly recommend that. If you want to use a benchmark, you want to see what a productive Historical Museum Commission or historical ordinance is, East Goshen Township. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambari. I believe that
Mr. Chairman, I can comment further on that. That one of the ordinances that I submitted was the East Goshen ordinance.
Thank you. Any other comment, Ms. Ford? Remind you, Ms. Ford, we've given you quite some time over the 3-minute limit, so I'm going to ask you to limit your comment.
No problem.
Thank you.
Well, I missed the motion that's on the table.
The motion is for an ordinance and I'll let Mr. Purnell.
All right, well, I'll just stop you right there if that's okay. Is it proper to vote on an ordinance that wasn't part of the agenda?
Let me review the motion.
Okay.
The motion is to authorize the solicitor
Okay.
to review the documentation that Mr. Purnell has submitted to me and to draft an ordinance for review by the board.
So even though it wasn't on the agenda that you were taking action on that's...
That's correct.
Okay, great, thanks.
Just for some background information, Ms. Swart, there was another property that was lost that had historical significance.
And Mr. Purnell found out about that. Some of our staff is very concerned. We're losing our history as we speak. There's not much of it left. So we feel that we have to take the steps necessary to expedite this as best as we possibly can. We're not trying to pull anything over anyone's eyes, but we just feel it's a necessity. Dr. White, I think you had a question.
Doug White, yes, I support this. I think it's an excellent step. And also, if the Board of Supervisors could be aware of the demolition permits that were applied for and issued. I know there's many permits that come through, but maybe if they're going to be attended, so all of you are aware of the permits that come through, and then it may help. So, thank you.
I think that's something we should look into when we're drafting this possible ordinance as far as proper notification before something like this happens again. Thank you for bringing that up, Dr. White. And Mr. Purnell, thank you for your work on this. I really appreciate it. I believe that's the end of the township supervisor announcements. Ms. Vasily.
Mr. Chair, I think we still need to vote. on
Yes, we do.
authorizing-
Thank you. It's so good to have a good team to remind me. Okay, great. So I think we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Pardon my haste. Number 11 on the agenda, we have township manager's announcements.
Yes, just to reiterate, the September Board of Supervisors meeting will be Thursday, September 20th, 7 p.m. And I want to take this opportunity to turn my comments over to the solicitor regarding the West Town sewer use agreement litigation, or potential litigation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lyon.
Absolutely.
I would request a motion from the board this evening that if a complaint has to be filed against Westtown Township for its failure to honor its duties and obligations under an existing agreement with the sewer authority and the township, that the township authorize me to enter my appearance on behalf of the township as a party plaintiff in that matter.
Any discussion or any comments from the audience? Mr. Murphy.
Thank you. With respect to the motion that was just passed, would ask that Mr. Lyon, you check in tomorrow. I don't know if you received emails today. There seems to be some movement in negotiation on that issue.
Good.
So I just wanted to inform you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, this is if
Yes.
it is necessary to file a complaint. It has not been filed yet, and
Very good.
we don't know if it will. Oh, that's not.
We have a motion on, did someone make that motion?
Yes.
And we have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would that be all the township?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lalonde. The next item on the agenda is the township engineer stormwater announcements.
Yeah, Rick is on vacation, and he did not have any updates for me, so.
Very well. We will move along to the zoning officer's announcements. Mr. Webb, how are you this evening?
I'm wonderful, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only have one announcement, and that would be that the zoning hearing board does have an active application in front of them for 704 on West Town Road, J.D. Miller Company. They had previously been before the board of the zoning hearing board for relief. They're a very irregular shaped lot in an industrial zoning district. They had sought relief because our building setback requires 50 feet of frontage, a setback line of 50 feet. They had sought relief, I want to say 2014, 2015, to do an addition on their property, which they requested a setback line of 14 feet. And in the zoning hearing board's order, they granted them that such relief, but said any additional relief needed in the future, they would have to go back to the zoning hearing board. The applicant is really trying to beautify his building. He wants to add a vestibule. So instead of 14 feet, he needs relief for an additional 2 feet to be 12 feet from the property line. So they are going before the zoning hearing board They were originally scheduled for September 20th, but now I'll notify them that we cannot do that on September 20th. We will more than likely have to do it on the Board of Supervisors full hearing night because we're running into some time constraints with the NPC without the applicant granting us an extension. I know the applicant wants to get this approved, so more than likely I'll be going back to the ZHB and seeing that we can do it on the 18th. So, would this board have any opposition to that application? Would they like Mr. Sandin to appear on our behalf? The previous boards did not have any opposition to that application.
I think it should be easy.
Any questions? Would that require a vote?
No.
Okay. No action. All right. Well, no action.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, one other thing. Sorry. Mr. Lalonde and I had discussed, we've had some interesting people wanting to know how to start a business in this township. When I was at Taliesin, I created they loved me so much that they kept my name on it. The love's not mutual.
The World Wide Web.
Yes. I created a starting a business book that we distributed. It was on the township's website. So I'm going to be working on that and putting one together for here. And it's a good guide for even someone who wants to start a home-based business. Because people don't know. And it's an opportunity. We'll have that up in that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Any questions from the audience? Mr. O'Hara.
Boss Barry. Mr. Webb, Mr. Chairman, if you give me your indulgence, I'd like to ask that question directly, if I may. Do you, in your zoning ordinance, do you have a category home occupation and home-related business?
I would have to refer to my counsel.
Counselor?
Every zoning ordinance is required in Pennsylvania to have a use that is called a no-impact home-based business. And there are at least 6 strict criteria that you must meet in order to allow that. And that use is permitted in all residential zoning districts. Now, not every home business is going to meet the criteria that are required for a no-impact home-based business, and thus may need other relief in order to be allowed to occur in a residential district. But there is the no-impact home-based business, yes.
I am well aware of those. Just as a word of a caution, traffic is a major issue, trip cycle is a major issue, and to be able to file a complaint with the township is literally impossible unless you put a camera to a trip cycle. So when you guys go start a project that's going to have an adverse impact on the adjoining neighbors, you may want to think about the impact of it. I suffered through that for about 30 years, and I became an expert at it. So before you go do something that's going to impact everybody, look a little bit harder and deeper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barr. Folks, we're going to move on to number 14. That's the approval of the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes of July 17th, 2018. Now, do we have any public comment on the meeting minutes? Mr. O'Barr.
Mr. Chairman, after several comments I made in previous meetings, I'd like to compliment the board. Added verbiage, I think, is imperative in an open society. If you're going to criticize the police department, if you're going to criticize your township employee, it shouldn't come as a hostile act. It should come as an educational. Maybe I have seen something that would prevent the township from heartache or the police department from a heartache. More specifically, Section 1983. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Barr. Any other public comments? Can I entertain a motion? Mr. Permel, Mr. Meekum, second. All those in favor? Aye. Moving on to number 15, the approval of the Treasurer's Report dated July 31st, 2018 for the General Fund, the Sewer Revenue Fund, the Waste and Recycling Fund, and the Capital Reserve Fund, and
the bills to be paid from these funds. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'm sorry. Ms. Lasota will have to recuse herself with the statement. We have bills from High Schwartz again.
Okay.
So we'll have to do two separate motions.
So I'm an employee of High Schwartz, and I'm recusing myself from voting on approving their invoices.
Very good.
Make a motion we approve all of the bills presented with the exception of High Schools. Vote on this separate.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, Margie, go ahead. Sorry.
I asked some of these questions in anticipation of next week's meeting. I noticed, I brought this up a couple of years ago, we're still carrying a $13 million balance in the checking account in our general fund. We do have investment accounts for general fund monies. Why do we keep such a high balance in a checking account when I know interest rates are very low pretty much everywhere, but why aren't we investing those funds?
Well, you bring up some valid points, Ms. Schwartz, and I want to remind you, if you don't mind, of an opportunity to make an announcement. We are going to be having some upcoming budget meetings. And we're also having RFP for financial institutions that the township utilizes. We haven't done that in quite some time. It's part of our initiatives. We're looking at different contracts, professional contracts, including engineers, solicitors. Now we're going to be looking at our financial institutions and different opportunities, what they may offer for the township. So I invite you to attend those meetings and be involved in that. I cannot answer those questions now, but we'll have
Great,
that question on
that's
the-
fine. And then I see $930 vehicle and gas reimbursement. What is the township policy for reimbursing gasoline?
Mr. Lewis.
We don't reimburse, I don't understand your question.
Under this month's treasurer's report, it shows general reimbursements for vehicles, gas and oil, $930.21.
Okay, could you tell me where you work, please?
I'm on page 1.
Okay.
So there's vehicles, gas, and oil.
I'd have to check that on the treasurer's report, so I'd have to look at these stuff.
Okay, that's it's 310 gallons, 20 fill-ups. But you, the township manager, the director of public works, and the sewer manager all drive, I used to call them company vehicles when I was in the working world, but so taxpayer-funded vehicles. You drive.
We have take-home township vehicles, correct?
Okay.
And the township pays our gas.
Okay, and you live quite a distance away, as does the sewer plant manager, as does the director of public works.
Wait, I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I think he answered your question.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I just want to bring these points because when you're going to come to the residents in a couple of weeks or January 1st and ask for a 50+% sewer rate increase, I just want to, I've been making these points for a long time now. There's a lot of fat.
The
in
sewer
here.
rate doesn't have anything to do with payment of a manager's car. That is part of his contract, okay? There's a contract with the manager.
Is that
And
so?
that's part of his contract. And it's been approved and discussed previously at public meetings. And if you wanted to raise an issue about the manager having a car and the township paying for gas as part of his contract, then that issue should have been raised at that time. It's possible that the manager took less salary in exchange for the convenience of having a car and gas paid for by the township. So you're talking about two completely different things. Sewer rates and sewer payments, et cetera, are all about what it costs to run the sewer plant and to provide sewer service, not anything to do with the manager's contract.
Just as a comment though, where Mr. Lalonde lives in East Brandywine Township, their
Okay,
township.
so you're going to go. So you're going to go on. You're going to go on. It's out of order, Ms. Ward.
Thank you very much.
Okay, folks.
It's out of order.
Margie,
Okay.
it's not, Marge, it's not a debate. We can't argue these things. You can bring up this, This is, you know, you have the perfect right to bring up budget items, that's fine.
Okay.
But, you know, in an accusatory manner, this isn't the forum for that. I invite you to the budget meetings. I want you to have your say, but this is not the way to go about it. We'll note your comment, we'll note your question. But I don't want anyone, including my township manager or any one of us, or to sit here and feel like we're being cross-examined on that. There's a proper forum for that. So,
But I tried, but my comments are never reflected in the minutes because the township manager keeps the minutes.
listen, we've been through that before.
I know we have and nothing changes. And then I've been trying to be patient with this new board, but we're past 6 months into this new board and, you know, I can't.
And that's your right, Margie, but we're out of time. I have to ask you to move on. We're going to ask some more questions from our.
Okay, state, Mr. Lalonde, on page 4 of the treasurer's report, which is up for approval.
We're out of time, Margie. We're out of time.
No.
It's been way past.
I have a suggestion, Ms. Ward. If you obviously have this document in front of you that you've received. When did you get that document?
I printed it off the website yesterday or two.
Okay. If you have questions on specific line items, instead of taking public meeting time where folks out here may be interested in something that's still left to go on the agenda, if you could call Mr. Lalonde before the meeting and ask him specific questions about those things, I think he'd be in a better position to answer you because he'd have the specific treasurer's report in front of him. So that's my recommendation, and I recommend to the board that we take no longer this evening take specific questions on bill line items at this time.
Right, Margie.
I wish I had an opportunity at a workshop meeting. As I've said numerous times in the past, almost every township in this county has 2 meetings per month. The fact that this board, the second largest township in the county, meets once a month, when does one get the opportunity to come before our elected officials and participate?
We had 2 workshops last year. You did not show up.
So
I knew what was going to happen. I take my vacations in October, you know, whatever.
So that's the answer.
Margie, we have an annual series of workshops for the budget, which will be coming up in the month of October, I believe is when they start. And I want to encourage you and anyone else in the audience who at any one point in time has a concern about any of the chart of account information that is shared with you in terms of the amounts, what it's used for, how it's spent, why it's budgeted, to reach out directly to our finance director. She is very interested in hearing from the public and getting people's feedback. She is the most knowledgeable person because she runs the finance department and all the accounting aspects of it. And that if you have a concern about how we spend our money, please attend one of those workshops where it is the appropriate forum to share your concerns about how we're spending our money. It is not to point out one line item that questions why we're spending a certain amount of money for a certain type of service. If you are concerned about it, please bring your voice and your notes and your knowledge, and we will listen. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right, and where does the board stand on creating a citizen finance budget committee that's been discussed? Again,
We have not discussed it as a board.
There's your answer.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Folks, we're going to be moving on.
I believe we have a motion and we have a second to award. Yeah, so let's go ahead and.
The second motion I'll make is to pay the Ashford's invoices.
And I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
One abstention.
So we've done 2 votes for the funds, just so people understand. Okay. Moving on from that, we're going to go now to number 16, the continued discussion and possible approval of ordinance number 5-2018, establishment of residential rental housing inspection program and fees. This was continued July 17, 2018, the Board of Supervisors meeting. I believe I will hand that over to Mr. Glad.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I believe that the ordinance is ready to be approved this evening, barring the fee schedule. Mr. Lalonde and I continue to work on the fees. This board had authorized, well, not this board particularly, but previous boards had authorized by resolution that Mr. Lalonde could change the fee schedule at will when we determine necessary. So if we would find that the fees aren't working, we can change those fees. Before this thing, this ordinance would take effect January 1st, 2019. We would certainly bring those fees to this board well in advance of that ordinance passing. I was out on vacation, Casey was away. We just hadn't been able to meet up to get it finalized. But we will have finalized fees to this board well in advance of the ordinance passing, or of the ordinance taking effect. But the goal would be that we take effect January 1st. We can start the educational process right away by giving the apartment complexes and the people that we currently have registered with us as rentals. We can get those ordinances out to those folks so that they know. I'm even willing to come in and do a workshop if we have to. That's not a problem.
So the idea is, tonight we have a generic without the fee schedule.
Correct.
And then you would, the fee schedule would be by itself, it would stand alone.
We would present, yes.
And it would be presented at the next meeting or the second meeting.
Yeah, we'll have this to you by the 20th of September at the very latest. Because we did have a very good discussion about the fees at the last meeting. So we have notice to go to present with Mr. Sanders.
Correct. Yeah, the ordinance has been it was advertised for July 17th and it was tabled, which is why it's on this agenda. But I think what I'm hearing is that even though the fee resolution is not ready, the ordinance doesn't take effect until January 1st, so that you have between now and January 1st to get the fee resolution approved. But enactment of the ordinance will provide the zoning officer with the ability to start a public awareness program of the terms of the ordinance, which I think is very important. So I recommend a motion to enact the ordinance this evening, but that's the board's discretion.
Make that motion that we enact this ordinance.
Second. Yes.
Any public comment? And we've been talking about this for quite some time, folks, so why don't you, Jess?
Hi, thank you. Questions that the young lady I spoke to today, she made some good points. They have a lot of short-term rentals at their 230-unit complex. So does this ordinance specify, I believe it does, that every turnover, so if she turns over a short-term rental every 3 months, she has to pay the rental fee and have it inspected?
She has to pay the inspection fee. She doesn't have to re-rent. The only thing she would have to update is the tenant form, which would be a $10 fee.
Okay. All right.
Which is what we were initially going with. That could change.
Sure, you can turn the annual inspection.
Okay. How many rental units do we have in the township?
2,000.
Yeah, close to 2,000.
Okay, and how many staff will be able to inspect?
I mean, anybody in the codes department?
No. The assistant manager and myself, there's no certification for it. It's just a simple checklist.
It's a checklist.
Yep.
We made it as simple as possible so there's no gray area.
Yeah, you could, no, absolutely. We could negative.
Okay, thank you.
That takes 4,300 on a check.
Mr. Avari.
BoS Ribery, having owned rental properties in various jurisdictions for the last 40, 50 years, maybe 40 years. This is the maintenance code. I disagree anybody can inspect, because when you cite in the code or property maintenance code what you have to cite the section. Mr. Chairman, you're officer of the court. When you make an accusation, you have to back it up. I crime code or any other code. My question is, how many of your employees that they're going to inspect this, they have gone through the maintenance code? And if they're qualified to do that?
Mr. Webb?
Just to answer Mr. Barty's question, the checklist was actually written from sections of the property maintenance code. All of the entire checklist is based on items out of the International Property Maintenance Code. When Pennsylvania adopted the building code, the property maintenance code was not made part of that. So therefore, you don't need to be certified to inspect under the property maintenance code. You just have to be able to read and say, yep, that screen's broken. It meets that section, which is, the section numbers are on the checklist. And when I did the checklist, I specifically wrote it out of the property maintenance code because those were the issues we'd be dealing with.
My main question was that section, because in the case I want to challenge that, let's say you inspected one of my properties and I find it insufficient, I have to challenge that in the court, or you have to challenge in the court. You have to come up with a section of that ordinance.
That challenge would go to the Building Appeals Board, it wouldn't go to court. It would go to the Building Appeals Board, which is the Westchester Council of Governments has a Building Appeals Board. You would take it to them, and then if you didn't like their decision, then you would take it to Commonwealth Court, Common Police Department.
Borough of Westchester has an impeccable codes department, very knowledgeable, organized, by the book. I highly recommend, if you want to adopt that, maybe take a look at that with respect to the money issue, how much money they spend. I think there's going to be some issues in there. You may want to look into that. Again, Borough of Westchester, in my opinion, is a benchmark for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Tori. I understand you did check with neighboring municipalities.
Yes, we did.
Okay. All right, having said that, we do have a motion and a second on this. I believe if there's any other public comment, we're ready to vote. That said, ready to vote. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda post is number 17. It's a discussion of establishing a township shade tree commission. Now, is this
Yes and no. Yes, it's part of the applying for Tree City USA is to, one of the requirements in order to meet the qualifications for Tree City USA so that West Goshen is granted Tree City USA certification is to have a town shade tree commission. I believe when we initially started to pursue the specific qualifications, we did not authorize our solicitor to go ahead and draw up a tree shade commission ordinance. So perhaps we have to do that. I also have 6 resumes from residents who would like to sit on the commission, and I'm hoping that Mr. Purnell may actually want to lead it eventually. That's just a hint. So I'm passing out everyone's their resumes, so I put a packet together with everyone's resumes for
So you'd like us to read this, so we can talk about it next meeting?
Well, the resumes are probably a little premature, since we don't have an example of the ordinance yet.
So, just so I'm clear on this, we do need an ordinance that's still pending?
Yes.
Okay, and what's the deadline for that? We don't want to miss that, we don't want to.
I believe everything needs to be done by December.
Okay. What would be, what's the best course in your opinion?
I would suggest you
Authorizing-
authorize Mr. Sander to start out, and it's strictly out of the second class township code. It's not.
We've already committed ourselves to this venture, so we want to make sure we don't miss any.
And I want it's going to be a rough draft form so that everyone has the ability to review it and maybe limit or expand the power of the commission.
Yeah, there's a sample ordinance in the Arbor Society. So and it's pretty standard. It's generic, really across the country. And it's fairly straightforward.
So Ms. Lasota, is it your suggestion that we make a motion to authorize our solicitor to?
Yes. Yes. I'll make the motion. To authorize the solicitor.
Any public comment? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anything else about the tree?
Not yet. Thank you.
I think, Mr. Pernell, you mentioned something about historical trees. We have a number of trees that are...
Pennsylvania has a list of historical type trees.
Thank you.
People
Yeah.
We can't hear you. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Bob. Pennsylvania has a historical listing of trees, what they call generically witness trees. Trees that have been around for 150, 200 to 250, 300 years. One of which I can point out immediately is the Concord Beach tree right behind the old Park. Everybody seems to know about it because of the Boy Scout project that was done several years ago, where he built the fence and actually had direction signs and so forth for the area. So yes, it's something.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Soto, for that. Now we're going to move on to item number 18, discussion and possible approval of resolution 16-2018, establishing a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on Carlson Avenue from Concord Lane to Mall Lane. Who would like to lead that discussion? Mr. Willow.
Sure. Currently, Carlson Avenue between those, from South Concord Road to Mall, it's 25 miles an hour, but it's just not signed. This is just a housekeeping matter that the police department brought to us. So it's 25, but there's no signage, so we can't enforce, if we are able to do a speed detail. So it's just to authorize installation of signs.
Great. I wonder how you enforce it.
If the DJ would toss it in a second. Yes.
Well, anyway, okay, so with that said, do we have a motion to approve?
I will make that motion.
Ms. Duntebeck? I'll second that. Mr. Meekum, any public comment? Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Last but not least, folks, that leads us to our public comment section. One for public comment. Yes, sir.
You have a question for Mr. Lalonde. West Goshen Township has a policy.
Could you identify yourself, please? For the record?
Roger. West Goshen Township has a policy that requires residents to clear their walkways of snow within a specified period of time. Once the snowfall is ended, it will be subjected to the fine. Is that correct?
That is in our sidewalks ordinance to my recollection.
What's the reason this policy was initiated by West Goshen Township?
It was enacted well before I got here. I don't know.
What's your opinion of what the reason it was initiated? Why are you going to be fined if you don't clear the walkway?
He doesn't have an opinion because it's not his job to have an opinion about it. It's his job to enforce an ordinance that is on the books that was enacted long before he got here. Even if he was here when the ordinance was enacted, he is not the decision maker. It is the Board of Supervisors' discretion and legislative power to enact such an ordinance. So Mr. Lalonde is not the right person to address this question.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me ask you that question then. If it's passed by the Board of Supervisors, what's the reason why this policy was initiated by West Goshen Township?
Well, I would have to defer to what Mr. Sanders said. I wasn't here when that ordinance was passed, so I can't actually speak to why. It is an ordinance. It's one of our duties as township supervisors to oversee and make sure that these ordinances are enforced. Now, having said that, a citizen has every right to try to petition the Board of Supervisors to change an ordinance or introduce a new ordinance. But I cannot answer that question.
Was this a public safety issue?
I would imagine it would be, but I don't know. I would say that it probably would have to do with safety, maybe aesthetics. Who knows? I wasn't there, as I said before, so I can't really comment.
Well, if this is a public safety issue, when snowplows throw clumps of snow and ice back on the walkways and create a hazard on a poorly lit street, isn't this a public safety issue?
Every sidewalk, Mr. Chairman, that I've ever seen, and every driveway in any subdivision, in any homes that are located on a road that gets plowed, how many times have you shoveled your driveway apron, it's all clear, and that plow comes by, and gosh darn it, you have a 3-foot wall of solid ice that came off the road and is now your problem again to have to clear. I think that everyone in this room has probably shared that experience. I certainly have numerous times. And I say to myself, why? It's such an inconvenience. Why? Well, because it's more important for the general public to get a road clear of snow and ice so that greater number of people can use it than it is to worry about how they're going to clear out each individual driveway. It's the greatest good for the greatest number, as it were, and I don't think that's a unique situation here in West Goshen.
Well, Mr. Sanders, well, I'm not talking about aprons on driveways, I'm talking about the walkways.
Sometimes a plow will, during its plowing of a street, push snow and ice from the road onto a walkway area. That's correct.
Well, my experience has been, and last winter, I guess it was, I was on at an intersection of Phoenixville Pike, and there was a snowplow truck directly in front of me at the red light. And when the light turned green, the snowplow started, and I was following exactly behind him. When he was going 15 miles an hour, there was no throwback. When he got up to 40 miles an hour, there was a throwback of 10 to 12 feet. So that would apply to any snow plowing. It's all governed by speed. If you slow down, you won't throw snow back.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Mr. Amari.
Just for the record, my driveway gets filled up like that all the time. I'm the chairman of the board, so I don't think you guys are doing it on purpose, though. I hope not.
BoS for Mary. Mr. Chairman, with respect to Mr. Project, assertion or fact, momentum. Somebody should look that up. With respect to my comment, a few meetings ago, I brought to your attention misconduct, behavior, basically racism, bigoted behavior by your township manager, zoning officer, township engineer, and fire marshal. I also stated absolute disastrous behavior by your police department. And I made an attempt to bring this to your attention so you can correct this problem and you can correct it. My question to you, Mr. Chairman, what methodology have you employed so far to address this issue?
Mr. Amari, you've come here several times. You've made vague and unspecific accusations. To this day, I don't have any specifics as to what you're saying. Your accusations are troubling because, speak first for the chief, known him since 2004, worked with him, not as a supervisor, but as an attorney on the opposite side of the courtroom. Though the chief and I don't see eye to eye on everything, I can tell you clearly from my heart, he is no racist. So I don't know where you get that from. I wasn't there when this incident occurred. I talked to different people about it. I asked about it. It seems to me that you were put off because you got an answer you didn't like, which that's fine, that's your right. But you continue to make these accusations and you disparage their character, and yet you have not given me a scintilla of any specifics. I invited you to send me any information you might have. I still haven't received that information. Instead, you choose to come here and continue to make these disparaging remarks about these people who are public servants. I can only speak to my experience with each and every one of them. I've yet to see any of them say anything racist. I myself, Mr. Amari, have a family that is a minority family. I take these things very seriously, and I can tell you, I think your accusations are unfounded. I think you're taking your anger and you're directing it in an unproductive way. I'm more than willing to sit down with you and talk to you about these issues. if you can bring me something specific. Until then, I will let you say your piece, but I do not agree.
Mr. Chairman, when you gave me your card, I expect this matter to be resolved in a public format. I think public has a right to know how their public servants behave. I think that's important. When I bring this matter to your attention, it should be investigated. It should be investigated for the benefit of all.
How can you investigate when you're not giving me anything specific? I can't tell you how many times, Mr. Arbery, that people have come in here and made accusations on many different levels, on many different subjects, and not once have they come to me with something that I could actually use substantively, and follow up on. So once again, if you have an issue, which this seems to be a very old issue, I would advise you to come to me with some specifics or some other agency for your redress in this situation. Your accusations are very serious. So I'm saying this in open. If you have something, bring something. If you don't, I would appreciate that this unproductive exchange that we have every month. Public statements we take seriously, and we try our best to promote open dialogue. We on this board don't agree on everything. We've had our heated discussions, but we respect one another. We don't call each other racists. We don't go to a certain level that you have gone to. I just can't, I have to say something. I've kept my mouth shut for 3 months over this thing. I'm trying to respect you. And believe me, I'm very sensitive to some of the issues that you say. But at the same time, sir, when you talk about this publicly, you're affecting people and their reputations. And these folks have to sit here and take it. So I'll ask you once again, if you have something, if you have some proof, if you have some specifics, then please forward them to me. I gave you my card. Feel free to do it. I'll be more than happy to look into it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect, when you sanitize the minutes, when you don't put the minutes in the correct perspective, when I file a police report, it's false, incorrect. And when I put a camera in front of somebody, all of a sudden they become angels. I think, Mr. Chairman, you should take a good look at this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Barry. Ms. Ward.
I just would like to comment on your last statement. We use YouTube now, and we will be live streaming our minutes, our meetings going forward. So we have made a decision that because we only have so much time to jot everybody's comments down, and there have been criticisms of them not accurately portraying exactly what was said, that we're utilizing a technology that allows you to listen and watch the words come out of our mouths so that it isn't misinterpreted through our minutes, our handwritten minutes. The minutes are retained, but so is the YouTube video. And ultimately, that is the one that you should go to make sure that you can identify what we've actually said and that your comments have been recorded. We make the podium available with the audio service so that your comments are very clearly stated and very clearly picked up on the camera that's right over your shoulder. Okay, and that goes for everybody who's here. We ask you to come to the podium specifically so your voice can be recorded on the tape and it's very clear what you've stated for everyone who ever wants to see those minutes in real time. Okay?
Yes, I do have specifics, and I would like to meet with you before next Thursday, if we may. I do have an affidavit that Mr. Lalonde just recently signed to the Office of Open Records. It's not truthful, and I have proof to show you that. I have emails regarding the sewer upgrades that clearly aren't truthful. And I even wrote our solicitor, Mr. Sander, an email a couple weeks ago. And I said the intimidation, retaliation, and abuse of power at the hands of West Goshen Township needs to end. Nobody's reached out to me. As lawyers, don't you have an obligation when somebody is saying at the hands of a township employee, you know, this is abuse, and you get angry with citizens that are coming to you and say, listen to us. I have the proof. I've been in court with this man. He's not truthful. I've told that. And you guys just want to believe.
Careful, Mrs. Sword. Be careful, Mrs. Sword. This is being recorded, and it's borderline slander.
I only speak.
Borderline slander, Ms. Sword.
I only speak the truth. Okay.
Ms. Swart, when just for your edification, when you take a matter to court,
Would you meet with me? I won't belabor this any. I would like to sit down with you and present to you facts that I have, evidence that I have.
Because the case is over. It's been adjudicated, and the case is over.
I'm not talking about that case.
But that's what it arose from, correct? Is that what it arose from?
I have evidence.
You have your judicial rights. You have your rights as a citizen, Ms. Swart. This is not an issue to be discussed with the Board of Supervisors.
Ms. Swart, I'll be glad to take that information and take a look at it, but
Would you kindly meet with me?
I will try my best.
I send emails, I occasionally call you.
You have my contact.
I've tried to reach out to you. I would prefer not to stand here and do this. Do you think this is pleasurable and easy for me? I don't like it. But you give me no other option. Nobody's ever responded to an email.
I represent the Board of Supervisors of West Goshen Township. I take my authorization and when I do something, including send an email, it is authorized in some way by this board, usually through its manager, but oftentimes, as you've heard tonight, motion to authorize the solicitor, motion to authorize the solicitor. I can't do anything until they authorize it. When I receive an email from you that I believe arose out of a case that has been litigated and finally decided, and I decide not to return your email because it's making claims that have already been determined and already been reviewed and decided, that is me saving the taxpayers of West Goshen money because I'm not authorized to respond to every email I get from a resident. So that's why you didn't get a response from me. And I would be very careful about what you say and what you sit down and you provide to Mr. Pielli because you've had a case and it's been adjudicated and it's done. And Mr. Lalonde's, what he signed and what he said in that case was adjudicated and it was found to be true. And you can have your opinion as to what he's doing, and you can have your opinion as to what Aqua of Pennsylvania said about will supply letters and all that other nice stuff. But again, it's an opinion, and the Office of Open Records has found that your case had no merit.
No.
So that you can, yes. No. So it's not appropriate to take time of the board to have them review something that's already been reviewed and adjudicated.
No. I would like to just have my chance now. The reason the Office of Open Records ruled in the township's favor is because Mr. Lalonde signed an affidavit. Case law is established if someone submits an affidavit and verifies it to be the truth, they have to accept that as the truth. So I'm here to tell you the affidavit isn't the truth, and I can show you that. So
it's your opinion.
It's not.
It's your opinion, Mr. Ward.
It's fact. It's fact.
It's not fact.
I haven't used the gavel like this since.
Okay.
Listen, Margie, there's a lot of litigation in the past between you and the township. Once that trigger's pulled, there's a lot of communication that shuts down, and there's a reason for that. I have a responsibility to protect the township, not wrongdoing, but to protect the best interest of the township. What you're saying is an opinion. I would tell you to seek counsel. I can't sit there and it would be a conflict of interest if I was to discuss some of these issues with you where there's possible litigation going forward. This is nothing personal. I've tried my best to give you as much time as possible to have your view. So please, don't look at this as something that is a personal issue. This is strictly business. With that said, I think your time is out. I've given you more than 5 minutes. The time limit is 3. I have to move on because other people would like to speak.
I have evidence of conspiracy, collusion, fraud, abuse of power, and everything else.
Take
And
it to the
you're telling me
DA,
you're not interested.
Ms. Swart, take it to the DA. Take it to the DA, because those are crimes.
I will.
You've just alleged crimes.
Yep.
You're borderline slanderous. Take it to the DA.
I've taken it to the AG.
You've lost before.
We look forward to hearing from him.
Good evening, my name is Jean Anderson. I don't like to stand up here, I don't like knowing I'm on YouTube. But I wanted to say, I kept looking at this sign that says West Goshen Township established in 1817. And I don't believe from 1817 to 2018 that this board has been doing wrong. I didn't come to these meetings thinking that everything was wrong, and I came to learn about the township. And so far, I've learned that you're very patient, okay?
I'm not. Worst patient. I'm a less patient.
And I appreciate your less patience. But I think that it behooves us all to start with the premise that I don't know whether you're getting paid or not. I'm not asking you if you get paid, but I just can't imagine you coming here month after month to sit on this board and have people accuse you of doing something wrong. There's no purpose to that. So I don't learn anything when that happens. All I learn is that maybe I won't come next month because why bother? So I want to thank each one of you for what you do for the township. I know that West Goshen is a solid township, it's a good township. I moved from Westtown Township to West Goshen Township. And you have a lot of services, a lot of good people in this township, a lot of good things go on in West Goshen. And people get up here and recommend, you should look at East Goshen, and you should look at this, and you should look at that. And you know, that to me, you're bright people. I think you would look at these other places before you bring forth a comment or an opinion or a recommendation. You don't just sit in a bubble and say, this is what we're going to do because we're West Goshen Township. That you take a look at what other people do and compare your township or our township to theirs and how it would affect us and massage it to fit us. So I just want to thank you for your service.
Thank you. Dr. White.
I'm Doug White. It's kind of hard for me to sit here and listen to all this. As you know, my dad worked his tail off for 18 years to make sure that this township was a first-class township. Along with Mr. Mika, Mr. Murphy, Ms. McElvain, Ray, and I trust that all of you will continue in that tradition. It's a first-class township. He worked his tail off. He was always here, and that doesn't happen too often. That's why he was elected 4 times. But that being aside, and Casey, I mean, you all do a great job. I can't say enough. Anyway, that's that. Also, as far as the Agway property goes and the conditional use here, it was only conditional use. We still have a chance to guide how that project happens. And as far as traffic goes, yes, traffic might be affected, it might not be. But before that Agway was there, and before the Point was there, when it was Spaz Beverage, that was still a bad intersection. It was always a bad intersection. In 1975, it was a bad intersection. So I trust that the board is going to do its best to manage that development properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Doug, if I can offer a comment, that intersection was a bad intersection back when there was a slaughterhouse on the property. That's going back.
So again, it was just conditional use.
For a reason.
We'll do it right. Thank you.
We'll get there. Thank you, Dr. White. Just so folks know that there are some traffic improvements that have been included in this approval plan. Now, our engineer took a look at it. And, I mean, honestly, it's going to be a grade from A to F. It's an F. It's an F plus. It's a bad intersection. Hasn't gotten better. These improvements are going to improve it. They're not going to solve everything, though. We understand that. So that's the challenge that we have, not just there, but throughout the whole township. Traffic is a big issue. It's something that we really have to get our arms around going forward for the quality of life. So we will keep that in mind, Dr. White. And your father was very, very helpful and kind to me, and I always appreciate his work here. Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Broker.
Yeah, you made a comment to Mr. Rabari about documentation for his complaint. Now, 2 months ago, I read a letter where I said I had massive photos, videos, documentation that will verify my complaint. I got complete silence from this board. Nobody seems interested in seeing any of that. And I was just wondering why. Because your silence is making you complicit with people, the township officials.
To your point, I actually followed up with folks in the public works. I asked about that specifically. They gave me an explanation. They've tried their best. They can't avoid getting snow on your sidewalk. And then I'm left with your accusations. No one's denying that there's snow on your sidewalk.
And why is it only on my sidewalk on Sylvan? I have documentation, videos, pictures that show my property is the only one that the snow throwback is on Sylvan. Nobody else is having it. I have pictures from years ago.
Their explanation is everybody's property is uniquely situated and positioned.
It's a one straight road. And like I just said earlier, speed controls the amount of snow that's thrown back. If you slow down, it won't be thrown back.
I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ride in that truck when they go through your neighborhood. And I'm going to tell you about it before I come through. You can give me your cell phone number. So I'll take a look at it myself.
But why is nobody interested in seeing the documentation I have?
I think we're past that.
It'll verify that.
A lot more than that. I'm going to go, and I'm going to ride along. It's not the first time, Gary, and I did that a while ago. I'll promise you that. You could hold me to that promise. I will do that. And then we'll have a discussion. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Good enough. Any other public comments? Next.
I'm Maxine Richter, and I am a resident of the township. A couple of things. I've lived in 7 states and 11 cities, and with the exception of Florida, they have all been in snow country. And I must say that this problem of snow on the sidewalks and on driveways has been in every city except the Florida cities that I have lived in. And if there is any reasonable solution, I think somebody could get very rich or have a very high public appearance on this. So I have never heard of a case in all my time of being personal. I know you feel personal. I have felt that it's personal, but it really is not. Changing subject here. I remember that the rules of the meetings is limiting the time, and it does say we're not going to enter into debate. And I like that. And in today's meeting, it's very hard when being accused. And accusations are very painful for me in public. I know it's somebody's rights, and you can ask questions that are not accusatory in nature. Please, I hope that the public refrains from asking accusatory questions in the future. And I ask that the board and the solicitor make every effort to stop the answer. It's hard when you're being accused not to debate it. It's very hard. But it's so painful to me that I don't want to hear the responses. That's a private issue there because it has become personal. What's the other subject? I agree 100% with what Jeannie Anderson and Dr. White said, that I really, and I've said this before, the professionalism of the board members who are being accused in not responding in kind. It's a professionalism that I admire, and I must admit in my tenure as a public official that I have not been able to do myself. I envy it. Also, as a government employee, a former government employee, minute meetings, I would like to reiterate that minute meetings, minutes, are not really supposed to document every word that is said. That is in the record.
Not a verbatim.
That's correct. And it's not verbatim. And just because you have a suggestion does not mean that it's going to be, that people are going to follow it. If non-response in this country means disapproval, non-response in the Far East means approval. So we are not in the Far East. We are here in the United States. Non-response, yes, we heard your suggestion, and we're not going to follow it because it has no merit or whatever reason. You heard the suggestions and you voted accordingly. And that's, unfortunately, the school system does not teach civics anymore. These are the kind of things that are taught in the civics class, Government 101. And it's really a shame that you get to this age and you do not understand very basic accounting, very basic government, very basic coordination of documents and how things work. If anybody has a suggestion how to acquire this information, where it is taught, maybe that can be posted in college. In Westchester, I think they do have some equivalent to civics courses. Unfortunately, the high school courses and the grade school courses are now being taught at the college level. If you're a senior citizen, you get to take them for free, for credit or for auditing. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. I have been coming to most of the meetings when I'm in town. Last month I was out of town and couldn't make any of the meetings. I'm very sorry. Had family emergencies, and but I admire the workings of the board and of the township. And I'm glad that you have adopted the ordinances and rules that you have. Thank you.
We're going to have to ask you to make it quick because you've already had your bite of the apple on that. Oh, wait a minute. If you can, in all fairness, this gentleman's been waiting. I'll yield for a moment.
Most people don't know the history of my experience in this township. I moved here in 1977. For 30 years, I never once had snow thrown back on my walkway. And then there was a sleet storm in February of '07, and I cleared my walk completely. And when I came back, it was completely covered with sleet. I called the township, spoke with Mr. Halverson, and he threatened me with, and I quote, "It may happen again." And it's happened for the last 11 years. It didn't happen for 30, and now it's happened every year for 11. I'd like someone to explain it to me.
We're going to get to the bottom of it. I'm going to be there, see what's going to happen. Now, sir, I'm sorry.
Dave Summers from West Goshen. We teach civics at Bishop Shanahan, sophomore year, 1 credit, and they learn everything. Well, 1 credit is for a year, that's what we have. So sophomore, grade 10, civics the entire year. Bishop Shanahan, 220 Woodbine Road.
Enroll in that class.
I see some scouts here today. I hope this wasn't too scary of an experience for you. This is democracy at the local level. Thank you for coming. Folks, I have a motion to adjourn, I think, from Mr. Purnell. A second from Mr. Meek, and all those in favor? Aye. Thank you for coming.